I never thought this day would come. I woke up like any other morning, sunlight slipping through the blinds, birds chirping outside, the smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen. It all seemed normal. Too normal, maybe. I got out of bed, stretching, thinking about the usual things, work, errands, the small routines that make life feel safe. I thought my family had my back like they always did. I thought love and loyalty meant something to them. I thought we were untouchable, bound by years of shared memories and trust. But that morning, something felt off. It wasn't anything I could immediately put my finger on. The usual warmth in the house was gone. The kind smiles, the casual chatter, the teasing that usually made me roll my eyes, all replaced by whispers, hesitant glances, and a quiet tension that seemed to cling to the air like smoke. It was subtle at first, almost ignorable, but it was there. A crack in the perfect facade. And then it started. The phone rang. The number on the screen was unfamiliar, one I didn't recognize. I hesitated, a knot forming in my stomach. I answered, trying to sound casual. But the voice on the other end didn't make casual conversation. Instead, it asked about a bank account, an account I didn't even know existed. My stomach sank. My hands trembled slightly as the words sank in. Something was happening behind my back, something I couldn't yet see or understand. I tried to brush it off, telling myself maybe it was a mistake, some kind of clerical error. Maybe the bank had called the wrong person. But deep down, a tiny voice whispered the truth I didn't want to hear. There was a tension in the air, a silence so loud it was almost suffocating. And in that silence, I began to notice the first real signs that something was terribly wrong. The way my mother's eyes darted when I walked past the living room. The way my father's hand tightened around his coffee mug, knuckles white. The quiet, almost imperceptible shifting of my siblings in the corner, all subtle but unmistakable once you notice. These weren't coincidences. Something had changed. Something had broken. And I didn't yet know the scale of the betrayal waiting for me. I remember standing there, phone still in hand, heart pounding, thinking, is this really happening? Could the people I love the most, the people I've trusted my whole life, really be keeping secrets from me? It was the first moment I felt that terrifying mix of disbelief and fear. That sinking, icy realization that the life I thought I knew might not exist anymore. Have you ever felt that? That tiny whisper inside you, the one you try to ignore, telling you that something isn't right, that maybe your instincts are picking up on things your mind can't yet see. I had felt it before, but I'd always brushed it off. That morning, though, I knew I couldn't. I couldn't ignore the warning signs, the tension, the strange energy that had replaced our usual family warmth. I tried to go about my day normally. I smiled when I had to, nodded politely at conversation, pretended nothing was wrong. But every word I spoke felt hollow. Every laugh sounded strange in my own ears. It was like watching a movie where I was the only one who could see the cracks in the set, the shaky foundation beneath everything that seemed solid. And then came another subtle warning. A conversation I overheard by accident, just a few words that sent my heart racing. He doesn't know yet, make sure he never finds out. I froze, my breath caught. My hands went cold. And suddenly, all the little inconsistencies, all the odd glances and quiet whispers fit together into a picture I wasn't ready to see. I spent hours trying to convince myself I was imagining things. Maybe I had misunderstood. Maybe I was reading too much into their behavior. But every time I glanced at them, every time I caught a glimpse of that uneasy energy, the truth gnawed at me. There was something happening behind my back, something serious, something that would change everything. By the time evening came, the house felt alien. The warmth, the comfort, the sense of safety I had always taken for granted gone. I couldn't eat. I couldn't focus. My mind replayed every little moment from that morning, every glance, every word, every hesitation. And with every passing hour, the realization became clearer. The people I had trusted more than anyone else might not be on my side. I remember sitting alone in my room, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of it all. A storm was coming, I could feel it, though I didn't yet know the full force it would take. I felt betrayed, confused, and scared all at once. And yet, there was a small, stubborn spark inside me. I knew that no matter what was happening, I couldn't run from it. I had to face it. I had to uncover the truth, even if it shattered the world I had always believed in. That night, I couldn't sleep. The whispers, the glances, the strange phone call, they echoed in my mind. And as I lay there, staring at the ceiling, a question kept repeating in my head. How could the people I trusted the most turn against me? I wish I had listened to that tiny warning voice earlier. I wish I had acted on the first inkling of doubt. But sometimes the truth doesn't reveal itself all at once. Sometimes it creeps up slowly, quietly, until one day, without warning, it hits you like a thunderbolt. And when it hits, everything you thought you knew, everything you thought was safe, falls apart. Because what I uncovered next shattered every illusion I had about my family. Every laugh, every memory, every word of trust was tainted by the truth that I wasn't prepared for. And it all began that morning, the day everything changed. Let me take you back a few years, to a time when everything seemed perfect. Or at least, that's what I thought. To the outside world, we were the ideal family. Smiles, laughter, celebrations, vacations, the kind of moments people envy when they see them in pictures or hear stories. We were the family everyone wanted to be a part of, the family that seemed unshakable, untouchable. But behind closed doors, it wasn't like that at all. There were cracks in our perfect facade. Small, subtle, almost invisible cracks. Things that, at the time, I brushed off as coincidences, misunderstandings, or perhaps my imagination running wild. Little secrets carefully hidden, whispered conversations that stopped abruptly when I entered the room, bills that appeared and disappeared, and sudden, unexplained phone calls. I was always the responsible one, the one who thought ahead, who saved money, who measured every decision carefully. My siblings, on the other hand, were different. Charming, charismatic, everyone's favorite. The kind of people who could talk their way into any room and win over anyone with a smile. And my parents, they seemed loving, attentive, caring, the picture of warmth and stability. But even they had their moments. Quiet looks exchanged across the dinner table, hushed conversations when they thought I wasn't listening, hints of things that didn't quite add up. At the time, I ignored it all. I told myself I was imagining things. "You're overthinking," I would say. "Families argue, families have secrets, that's normal." But deep down, a nagging feeling told me I wasn't imagining anything at all. I was just too young, too trusting, too naive to see the bigger picture. And then came the opportunity, or perhaps the temptation, that would change everything. My parents announced one evening over dinner that they were planning to invest in a business venture. They presented it as an opportunity to help a distant relative, someone struggling financially and needing a hand. "It's about family," they said, their voices warm, persuasive. "We'll be helping someone who truly deserves it." My siblings chimed in enthusiastically, echoing my parents' sentiments. "It'll bring us closer," one said. "We'll all grow together financially and emotionally," said the other. Their smiles seemed genuine. Their excitement was contagious. I wanted to believe them. I wanted to trust them. And so, with the best of intentions, I agreed. I thought this was a chance to strengthen our bond, to show that loyalty and trust could triumph over money and temptation. Little did I know, I was stepping straight into a trap. Because as much as they spoke about family and trust, there was something else driving them, something darker, something I couldn't see yet. Greed, ambition, and the desire to control resources quietly, without confrontation, were already at play. And I, blind to the warning signs, was about to walk right into the center of it. Looking back, I can now see the early signs that I missed. The late night calls my parents took in secret. The odd questions my siblings asked, almost as if testing me, gauging how much I knew, how much I could be trusted. The documents that accidentally got left in plain sight, half shredded, as if daring me to notice. It was subtle, like a game I didn't know I was playing, a game with stakes higher than I could ever imagine. At first, everything seemed normal. We attended meetings about the investment together, discussed plans, and even celebrated small milestones. On the surface, it looked like a family working as one, united, focused, happy. But beneath that polished exterior, the foundations were shifting. Decisions were being made without my knowledge. Information was being withheld. Conversations were carefully curated to keep me in the dark, to make me believe I was included while the real plans moved forward without me. It's a strange feeling, being in a place where you're physically present but emotionally excluded. Watching your own family make choices that affect you without your input. It's suffocating, disorienting, and painful. And yet, at that moment, I still had no concrete proof. I only had instincts, small inconsistencies, and the nagging sense that something was very wrong. Over time, the small cracks grew. Requests for money that seemed reasonable at first, but became frequent and vague. Stories that didn't match reality. Encouragement to trust blindly while subtle hints told me not to. Each incident alone was insignificant, something I could excuse, rationalize, or dismiss. But together, they formed a pattern, a web I didn't yet understand, but which was slowly tightening around me. I started to notice their subtle maneuvers. How my siblings would steer conversations away from certain topics. How my parents would suddenly get defensive when I asked straightforward questions. How documents, bills, and records were never fully transparent. It was like the entire household had become a stage, and I had been cast as the naive protagonist, unaware of the hidden plot unfolding around me. And then came a turning point. A casual comment, almost offhand, from one of my siblings during a dinner conversation. Something so small, I almost missed it. Well, as long as no one checks the numbers too closely, we should be fine. That tiny phrase, buried in a sentence full of laughter, was like a lightning bolt. My heart stopped. My mind raced. Suddenly, all the little hints, all the whispers, all the subtle behaviors made sense. They weren't acting out of love. They weren't motivated by trust or family loyalty. They were acting out of self-interest, calculating every move, manipulating the situation to their advantage. And I, the one person who genuinely believed in the family, was oblivious to the extent of it. I felt a cold wave of fear, tinged with disbelief. How could they do this? How could the people I loved most betray me so completely? And yet, as shocked as I was, a part of me couldn't look away. I needed to understand. I needed to see the truth, no matter how painful it would be. Because that's the thing about betrayal. It often starts small, hidden beneath smiles and good intentions, but it grows. Slowly, patiently, strategically. And when it finally erupts, there's no going back. You see people, your parents, your siblings, your trusted ones, not as you once did, but for who they truly are. And that moment, that realization, would eventually hit me like a freight train. The seeds of betrayal had been planted long before, nurtured in secrecy, and I had walked right into them, thinking I was protecting family, thinking I was being loyal. I wish I had seen it sooner. I wish I had questioned the tiny inconsistencies, the subtle manipulations, the hidden motives. But hindsight is always clearer, isn't it? What matters is that once the trap was revealed, there would be no denying it. And that day, that moment, would set in motion a chain of events that changed everything. A chain that would test my patience, my strength, and my ability to stand up for myself in the face of the ultimate betrayal. At first, it was subtle, small inconsistencies that I almost brushed off. Receipts that didn't quite add up. Charges on the bank statements that I didn't recognize. Minor details that, if you ignored them, could seem like simple mistakes. But I couldn't ignore them. Not this time. Something in my gut told me these were not accidents. Something was being hidden, carefully, deliberately. I remember the first time I confronted them. I asked about a withdrawal, just a few $1,000s. "Oh, that! Don't worry about it," my mother said, waving her hand dismissively. "It's just some paperwork, nothing important." I tried to let it go. Maybe it really was nothing. But deep down, a knot of unease had formed in my stomach, tightening with every passing day. Then came the next instance. Another unexplained withdrawal, slightly larger this time. I checked the records repeatedly, hoping I was misunderstanding something. But the numbers didn't lie. I asked questions again, this time to my father. "You're overthinking," he said, forcing a laugh. "It's all fine, really. Stop worrying." Stop worrying. Those words echoed in my mind like a cruel joke. How could I stop worrying when the evidence was staring me in the face? When every instinct in my body screamed that something was terribly wrong? And yet, I found myself doubting myself. Was I imagining things? Was I being paranoid? It wasn't just the numbers. It was the reactions, the small signs that grew impossible to ignore. My siblings would laugh nervously when I brought up the topic, redirecting the conversation with jokes, teasing, or sudden chatter about something else entirely. But their smiles didn't reach their eyes. There was tension there, subtle, almost imperceptible if you weren't paying attention, but I saw it. One evening, after another day of pretending everything was normal, I decided I couldn't wait any longer. I had to follow my instincts. I stayed up late, long after everyone else had gone to bed. The house was silent except for the occasional creak of the floorboards and the hum of the refrigerator. I opened my laptop, pulled up all the bank statements, emails, and transaction records I could find, and began piecing together the puzzle. Hours passed, and with each click, my unease grew. The pieces started fitting together in a way I didn't want to see, and then I found it. A large sum of money had been transferred out of my account, not once, not twice, multiple times. And each time there was a story attached, a justification that didn't make sense. "It's for a family investment," one note said. "Helping a relative," another claimed. But the dates didn't match, the amounts were inconsistent, and somehow all of it had happened without my knowledge or consent. I felt my chest tighten. My hands trembled. My mind raced, unable to accept what I was seeing. Could this really be happening? Could the people I loved and trusted the most, the people I had shared my entire life with, really be doing this to me? I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of it. A part of me wanted to scream, to confront them immediately, to demand answers. But another part, a quieter part, told me to wait, to gather more evidence, to understand the full extent before reacting. And so I stayed up, piecing together every detail, making notes, connecting dots that had been invisible until now. The more I uncovered, the heavier the weight on my shoulders became. Every transaction, every hidden withdrawal, every unexplained document was a hammer strike, slowly breaking the trust I had always taken for granted. The betrayal wasn't just financial, it was personal. It was emotional. It was the realization that everything I believed about my family, about love, about loyalty, was being questioned. I thought about the moments I had laughed with them, shared my secrets, celebrated birthdays, confided my dreams. Were all those moments real, or were they just part of the facade? Had I been living in an illusion, blind to the manipulation happening right under my nose? I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed every interaction, every glance, every word that might have hinted at this. I remembered the whispers, the subtle conversations that stopped when I walked in, the offhand comments that didn't make sense at the time. Suddenly, everything aligned. And with that alignment came a cold, hard clarity. My family, the people I trusted completely, had betrayed me. I felt a mix of emotions I didn't know how to process. Anger surged first, raw, hot, impossible to ignore. How could they do this? How could they prioritize money over me, over our bond, over trust? Then came disbelief, a hollow feeling that gnawed at my chest. Then sorrow, deep, aching sorrow for the relationships that were never as they seemed. And underneath it all, a strange, simmering determination. I realized that while the betrayal was painful, it didn't have to destroy me. I couldn't change what had happened, but I could control what I did next. I could choose to act, to uncover the truth fully, to ensure that every lie, every deception, every hidden transaction was exposed. I also realized that this betrayal wasn't just about money. It was about trust. It was about love. It was about everything I thought I had with them. And when that foundation is shaken, when the people you rely on are the ones undermining you, it changes you. Forever. That night, I stayed up long after the house fell silent, staring at the glowing screen, documenting everything. Every number, every date, every note, every small inconsistency. I made a mental map of the lies, the secrets, the betrayals. And with each note, with each piece of proof, the path forward became clearer. I would need patience. I would need strategy. I would need to remain calm while the truth unfolded. Because anger, while natural, would not help me reclaim what was mine, the respect, the trust, the security I had lost. I needed to think, to plan, and to prepare for the moment when the betrayal could no longer be hidden. And yet, as I sat there, a part of me mourned. Not just for the money, not just for the lost trust, but for the family I thought I had, the one that existed in my heart, the one I believed in, the one that now seemed to be only a shadow of what I imagined. That night marked the first real turning point. It was the moment when innocence ended, when naivety cracked, and when I began to understand the depth of the deception surrounding me. The first signs of betrayal had been subtle, almost invisible, but now they were glaringly clear. The people I loved most had chosen another path, one that excluded me entirely, one that put their interests above loyalty, love, and honesty. I didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain: I could no longer pretend. I could no longer trust blindly. The game had changed, and I had to change with it. That was the night I truly saw the betrayal for what it was: a hidden, creeping force that had been building for years, now finally revealing itself in full. And it hit me harder than I could have imagined, because it wasn't just the money. It was everything I thought I had, everything I believed in, everything I had ever trusted. I couldn't confront them immediately. My instincts screamed at me to act, to yell, to demand answers, to let the anger and hurt pour out. But I knew that wouldn't solve anything. Rage is a reaction, not a strategy. I had to be smart. I had to be certain. I needed proof, irrefutable, undeniable proof that the people I trusted most had betrayed me. For weeks, I quietly observed. I tracked the flow of money, studying bank statements, receipts, and records with painstaking attention to detail. I recorded conversations when I could, not to trap them, but to make sure the truth couldn't be twisted. Every note I took, every discrepancy I recorded, every subtle clue I noticed, added another piece to the puzzle. It was exhausting, mentally and emotionally, but I forced myself to push through. The stakes were too high for mistakes. Finally, after endless nights of piecing it all together, I had everything. Every hidden transaction, every lie, every excuse, every carefully orchestrated attempt to cover their actions, all documented and undeniable. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was ready. Ready to confront them with the truth, ready to see their reactions, ready to understand the real people I had trusted all my life. I decided to confront my parents first. I remember that moment as if it were yesterday. The evening was quiet, the kind of quiet that usually signals comfort, but this time it felt tense, almost brittle. I called them into the living room, sat them down, and took a deep breath. "I know what's been happening," I said, my voice steady, controlled. "Every transaction, every hidden withdrawal, every lie, I have it all documented." For a moment, I expected shock, maybe denial, maybe tears. I imagined they would beg for forgiveness or at least explain themselves. But instead, I saw something I hadn't anticipated: indifference. Their faces were calm, almost smug. There was no guilt, no regret, no hint of remorse. My chest tightened. I felt a lump form in my throat. The people I had trusted my entire life, the ones I had confided in, shared dreams with, celebrated milestones with, had no visible shame for betraying me. They didn't apologize. They didn't offer any explanation that acknowledged the emotional damage, the broken trust, the betrayal of loyalty. Instead, they argued calmly, rationally, and disturbingly that I didn't understand. "This was for the greater good," my father said. "Money is important. You'll see that one day." My mother added, with a hint of irritation, "You're making this about yourself. You don't understand the bigger picture. This was necessary." I felt the room tilt. Words I had never expected to hear from them sank into me like ice water. Necessary. Bigger picture. Money over family. The people I loved had chosen something else, something that excluded me entirely. And then came my siblings. They stepped in almost rehearsed. "You're overreacting," one said. "You're imagining betrayal where there isn't any. You always make mountains out of molehills." Their smiles were fake, their eyes calculating, and I could feel the walls closing in. In that moment, I felt completely alone. Every memory I had of this family, every bond I thought was unbreakable, every moment of trust seemed to vanish in an instant. The people I had counted on, the people I had loved unconditionally, had chosen money over me. I was speechless. My heart ached. But as the initial shock and sorrow hit me, my mind started working. Slowly, methodically. Pain is heavy, yes, but clarity often comes in pain's shadow. I realized that I couldn't let this slide. I couldn't let their indifference become the final word. I had the truth, and the truth had power, but I needed to use it wisely. I thought about the options. Anger would feel good for a moment, but it wouldn't secure justice. Confrontation without proof could be dismissed, twisted, or ignored. I had to act in a way that would expose everything, not just for me, but to make them accountable for the betrayal. I began imagining the steps. First, I would gather everything in one place, all the evidence meticulously organized. Every bank statement, every email, every record of hidden conversations. Then, I would confront them again, not with raw emotion, but with undeniable proof. Calm, methodical, leaving no room for denial. I also knew that this confrontation would test more than just the evidence. It would test their character, their reaction to truth. Would they finally feel guilt, shame, remorse? Or would they continue to justify themselves, rationalize their betrayal, and dismiss the emotional damage they caused? I didn't know yet, but I had to be ready for either outcome. The weight of betrayal settled over me like a storm cloud. I could feel it pressing down on my chest, threatening to suffocate me. But beneath the weight, beneath the hurt and disbelief, I felt something else stirring: resolve, determination. A quiet, burning fire that refused to let this injustice stand. I remember sitting alone in my room that night after the confrontation. The living room where the discussion had happened felt empty, hollow. The laughter, the warmth, the familiarity gone. I replayed their words over and over in my mind. Necessary, bigger picture, overreacting, imagining betrayal. Each phrase burned like acid, but also crystallized the reality I had to face. I could no longer trust blindly. I could no longer assume loyalty or love as guarantees. I had to protect myself, and I had to reclaim what was mine, emotionally and financially. I also realized something else, something that scared me as much as it motivated me. Betrayal isn't always obvious at first. It creeps in slowly, often disguised as care, concern, or family duty. And by the time you see it for what it really is, the damage is already done. I had caught it just in time, but the emotional cost was already immense. That night, I made a vow to myself. I would not let them erase me, dismiss me, or manipulate me any longer. I would be methodical. I would be patient. I would expose the truth, not with anger, but with clarity, with undeniable evidence that could not be ignored. I would reclaim my voice, my dignity, my security. And yet, even as I planned, a part of me mourned. Not just for the money, but for the family I thought I had, the one that existed in my mind, the one I believed in, the one that now seemed to be nothing more than an illusion. Betrayal is like that. It doesn't just take what's tangible. It takes memories, trust, comfort, and the sense of safety you once had. The days that followed were tense, silent, and heavy. The house felt like a stage, and I was now fully aware of the roles everyone was playing. Conversations were carefully measured. Glances were loaded with unspoken meaning, and every interaction reminded me that the betrayal wasn't just a single event. It was a pattern, a strategy, a conscious choice to prioritize self-interest over family, over love, over loyalty. I knew the next steps had to be deliberate. I couldn't act impulsively, because impulsive actions could be dismissed, twisted, or ignored. But I also knew that inaction was no longer an option. I had the truth, and truth has power, but power only matters if it's wielded. That's when I started to strategize. I organized every piece of evidence, cataloged every lie, and planned the moment when the full betrayal would be revealed. I didn't want revenge in the traditional sense. I wanted justice, clarity, and accountability. And I wanted them to see that their actions had consequences. The truth had been uncovered. The veil had been lifted. And what I saw beneath it was not the family I had loved unconditionally, but something darker. People who prioritized money and convenience over trust, loyalty, and love. I felt sorrow, yes. Anger, certainly. But above all, I felt clarity. And with clarity came purpose. I couldn't undo what had happened, but I could control what came next. I could ensure the betrayal was exposed. I could protect myself. And I could reclaim the life I had believed in before the lies had taken over. That was the moment I realized the real battle had only just begun. The confrontation wasn't the end, it was the beginning. And from that point forward, everything I did, every decision I made, would be shaped by one unshakable truth. Trust must be earned, not assumed. And the people you love most can sometimes be the ones who betray you the deepest. I won't lie, the first instinct was anger, pure, uncontrollable anger. There were moments when I wanted to storm into the room, throw the evidence on the table, and let my emotions explode. I wanted them to feel the same shock, the same pain, the same betrayal that had torn through me. but I stopped myself because I knew something important. Anger gives relief, but it also gives away control. And control was the one thing I could not afford to lose. True justice doesn't come from shouting. It doesn't come from emotional reactions. It comes from patience, strategy, and thinking 3 steps ahead. So instead of reacting, I paused, I stepped back, I breathed, and I made a decision that would change everything. I would not let emotions lead me. I would let preparation do the talking. The first step was documentation. Not casually, not loosely, perfectly. I went through every transaction line by line, dates, amounts, patterns. I organized everything into folders, timelines, and summaries. Every suspicious withdrawal, every unexplained transfer, every excuse they had ever given recorded, labeled, cross-checked. Then came the conversations. I wrote down exact words. Who said what, when they said it, what they avoided saying. Silence can be as revealing as speech, and I learned to document that too. Hesitation, deflection, sudden changes in tone, every detail mattered. This wasn't about revenge for the sake of revenge. This was about building something they could not deny. Next, I took the hardest step of all, involving people outside the family. That decision didn't come easily. Family secrets are heavy, and breaking that silence feels like betrayal in itself. But I reminded myself of one truth. They had already broken the bond. I was only protecting myself. I spoke to a lawyer first, quietly, carefully. I didn't accuse anyone. I just presented facts, documents, records, timelines. I watched their expression change as the pattern became clear. Then came the accountant, someone trained to see what emotions can't. They confirmed what my instincts already knew. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't mismanagement. It was intentional. Hearing that from neutral professionals changed something inside me. The doubt disappeared. The guilt faded. I wasn't overreacting. I was imagining betrayal. I was seeing the truth clearly for the first time. With that clarity came calm. A dangerous kind of calm. From that point on, I became an observer. I stopped asking questions. I stopped showing concern. I stopped reacting. And that's when everything changed, because people reveal their true nature when they think they've won. I watched my parents grow more relaxed, more confident. They spoke more freely, assumed I was unaware, assumed I had accepted their version of events. My siblings became careless. Jokes slipped out. Comments were made without thinking. Confidence breeds mistakes, and mistakes create evidence. I listened. I remembered. I documented. Every lie they told became clearer because I wasn't interrupting it anymore. There's a strange power in silence. When you stop defending yourself, people assume you've surrendered. And when they assume that, they expose everything. I let them believe they had the upper hand. I let them believe their plan had worked. Inside, I was building something far stronger than anger. I was building inevitability. The next step was subtle exposure, not to the world, not to the family, but to reality itself. I let consequences begin quietly. Financial doors started closing. Processes slowed down. Questions came from places they didn't expect. Nothing dramatic, nothing obvious, just enough pressure to create discomfort. And I watched. I watched the panic behind forced smiles. I watched the irritation grow. I watched blame quietly shift between them. They didn't realize it yet, but the ground beneath them was already cracking. Meanwhile, I stayed calm, polite, normal. I laughed at dinner. I made small talk. I played my role perfectly, because the most effective revenge is the one they don't see coming. At night, alone, I refined the plan. Every scenario, every reaction, every possible attempt they could make to deny, twist, or escape responsibility. I prepared responses before they spoke. I built timelines so clear that lies would collapse under their own weight. I wasn't planning a public explosion. I was planning an undeniable moment. The kind where truth doesn't need shouting. The kind where silence hits harder than anger. And something unexpected happened during that time. The pain changed shape. It didn't disappear, but it sharpened. It turned into focus. I stopped feeling like a victim and started feeling like someone who had survived something and learned from it. I realized this wasn't just about money. It was about power, control, respect. They had assumed I wouldn't notice. They had assumed I wouldn't act. They had assumed family loyalty would keep me quiet. They were wrong. While they celebrated small victories, extra spending, careless confidence, relaxed behavior, I prepared the final step. The moment when the truth would no longer belong only to me. The moment when every excuse would fail. The moment when the story they told themselves would collapse. And the most important part, I wasn't rushing. Because timing is everything. Revenge doesn't mean destruction. It means exposure. It means forcing people to face the reality they tried so hard to hide. It means reclaiming your power without losing yourself in the process. I promised myself one thing: when the truth came out, it would come out clean. Clear, calm, impossible to ignore. No shouting. No chaos. No regret. Just facts. And consequences. They thought they had won. They thought I had backed down. They thought silence meant weakness. What they didn't know was that silence was my preparation. And when the moment came, the moment the truth would finally stand in the open, they wouldn't be ready. Because nothing is more unsettling than realizing the person you underestimated has been watching the entire time. The day came sooner than I expected. Weeks of planning, observing, and documenting had brought me to this exact moment, but as I looked around the house, I felt a strange mix of nerves and calm. I was about to confront the people I loved most, the people who had betrayed me, the people who had taken my trust for granted. Yet beneath the tension, there was clarity. I knew what had to be done. I organized a family gathering, nothing overtly suspicious, just a casual dinner. A chance to eat, talk, laugh, or so it seemed. I set the table carefully, making the evening look ordinary. My parents didn't suspect a thing. My siblings were relaxed, even a little smug, as if they believed the game had gone in their favor. They didn't know that every detail had been anticipated, every reaction accounted for, every move carefully planned. Beneath the surface of casual conversation, I had prepared everything. Every document, every bank statement, every note of suspicious activity I had painstakingly compiled over weeks lay ready. They were hidden at first, but accessible, ready to reveal the full extent of the betrayal. I didn't rush. I let the evening unfold naturally, letting small talk and laughter build a false sense of comfort. There's a certain power in calmness. When people believe everything is normal, their guard drops. They speak freely, gesture carelessly, and assume no one is watching. And while they relaxed, I observed. Every look, every inflection, every tiny smile, it all added to the final picture. Then came the right moment. There was no dramatic announcement, no shouting, no build-up, just a quiet pause in the conversation, a space that invited attention. I took a breath and began to speak. "Before dessert," I said, my voice steady and calm, "there's something I need to share." The room went quiet. My parents exchanged glances. My siblings leaned forward, curious, suspicious. I held their attention without raising my voice, letting the calmness of my delivery add weight to what was about to unfold. I started slowly, carefully, laying out the facts. Each statement was precise, deliberate. I didn't accuse. I didn't speculate. I simply presented the truth. "Over the past months," I began, "I noticed inconsistencies in our finances. Withdrawals from my account I didn't authorize, bills that didn't match, documents that were hidden, conversations avoided." I let the words settle in. I could see the slight flicker of unease in their eyes. They knew they were caught. "I tracked every transaction," I continued. "I documented every conversation, and now I have proof." At that moment, I revealed the first set of documents. The bank statements, the transactions, the notes I had carefully compiled. I spread them across the table, letting them see the evidence in black and white. The effect was immediate. My father's expression shifted from confident calm to disbelief. My mother's smile faltered. My siblings, who had assumed I was still naive, suddenly froze. I watched as realization spread across their faces that the carefully constructed facade they had built was crumbling. I spoke with precision, detailing each hidden withdrawal, each unexplained expense, each excuse that had been given to cover their actions. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't yell. I didn't add commentary. I let the facts speak for themselves. The room grew heavier with each sentence. I could see panic rising subtly in their eyes, anger creeping into their posture. They tried to interject, to defend themselves, but the evidence was undeniable. Every number, every note, every recorded conversation was perfectly aligned with the story I had pieced together. There was no room for argument. "They were justified, though," my mother finally said, her voice slightly higher than normal, betraying nervousness. "It was for family reasons. You don't understand." I looked at her calmly. "I understand perfectly," I replied. "It wasn't about helping anyone. It was about control, about prioritizing money over trust, over honesty, over the bond we were supposed to have." My father opened his mouth to speak but faltered. The documents, the clear evidence, left him momentarily speechless. The confidence he had displayed for so long had evaporated. My siblings tried to deflect, to laugh it off, to claim I was overreacting, but each attempt faltered under the weight of the undeniable truth. Guilt began to creep in. I could see it in the subtle way they avoided eye contact, the slight hesitation in their gestures, the almost imperceptible tension in their shoulders. The realization hit them slowly, like a tide they couldn't stop. The trust we had built over years, the love and loyalty I had assumed was mutual, was irreparably broken. I didn't pause for dramatic effect. I didn't need to. The silence that followed my presentation of facts was more powerful than any raised voice, any emotional outburst. They were speechless, not because they were clever, not because they had no response, but because the truth was absolute, undeniable, and complete. I continued to speak, calmly, detailing the subtle manipulations I had noticed over the months. The phone calls they hid, the small lies, the attempts to make me believe I was imagining betrayal. Every detail was corroborated by the evidence in front of them. I could see the realization settling in. They had underestimated me. They had assumed my patience, my calm, my trust would prevent me from seeing the full picture. And now, faced with the facts, they could no longer hide. I could see the panic transform into a quiet, forced acknowledgement. My parents shifted uncomfortably in their chairs, my siblings avoided my gaze, and the laughter that had filled the room only hours earlier was gone. The truth had exposed them, left them vulnerable, stripped away the defenses they had relied on for so long. I let the moment linger. Silence is a tool more powerful than anger. It allows people to confront themselves. It forces reflection. It allows truth to sink in without distraction. And as they sat there, confronted by the reality they had tried to hide, I realized something profound. The moment of exposure is never just about revenge. It is about clarity. It is about reclaiming the narrative, restoring balance, and forcing accountability. Finally, my mother spoke, her voice soft, almost broken. I didn't mean for it to go this far." I looked at her, calm but firm. Intent doesn't erase actions. Choices have consequences, and the choices you made have consequences that cannot be undone. My father remained silent, staring at the documents, at the timeline, at the pattern that left no room for justification. My siblings sat frozen, the weight of their own involvement sinking in. The room was heavy with emotion, not mine alone, but theirs as well. Shock, guilt, shame, and the recognition that the trust they had violated could not easily be repaired. I didn't need to raise my voice. I didn't need to yell. I let the evidence, the undeniable proof, the methodical presentation do all the work. And when it was over, the silence that followed was absolute. The people who had betrayed me, the very ones I had trusted with everything, were left speechless, forced to face the consequences of their choices. And in that silence, I felt a strange mixture of emotions myself. Relief, yes. Satisfaction, absolutely. But also sorrow. Because even though the truth had been exposed, the damage was already done. Bonds that I had believed unbreakable were now fractured. The family I had imagined, the one I had trusted, would never be the same again. Yet despite the sorrow, there was clarity. I had acted with calm, with precision, and with integrity. I had let truth, not anger, be the weapon. I had reclaimed my power without compromising myself. And most importantly, I had shown that betrayal cannot hide forever, that patience, preparation, and unwavering focus can expose even the most carefully constructed lies. As the evening came to a close and the room emptied slowly, I sat alone for a moment, reflecting. The confrontation was over, the truth was out, and the consequences had begun to ripple through our lives. I knew the journey wasn't finished, relationships had been altered forever, but I also knew one vital thing. I had faced betrayal head-on, and I had emerged with clarity, control, and the knowledge that I would never be silenced again. The climax of betrayal had arrived. The truth had been exposed. And in that exposure, the balance had shifted irreversibly, undeniably, and completely. After that night, everything changed. The confrontation, the exposure of truth, the silence that followed, it left a mark on all of us. But for me, it was transformative. I realized something crucial. Relationships, no matter how deep, cannot always go back to the way they were. Trust, once broken, leaves a scar that reshapes everything. And accepting that truth was the first step toward healing. I started by distancing myself. Not in anger, not in revenge, but in understanding. I needed space to rebuild, space to reclaim the life I had been living under the shadow of betrayal. I focused on my life, my values, and my future. I reminded myself of who I was outside the influence of their actions. Slowly, piece by piece, I began reconstructing a version of myself that wasn't defined by the pain of others' choices. This wasn't easy. The wounds lingered like echoes that refused to fade. I still remembered the disbelief, the shock, the realization that the people I loved most had chosen something else over me. Some days were heavy, almost unbearable. The emotional fatigue of betrayal can weigh like a physical burden. But over time, I discovered something surprising: resilience. Strength I didn't know I had. The ability to move forward even when the past tried to pull me back. I learned to trust myself first, to listen to instincts that had previously been ignored, to recognize the warning signs of betrayal early and act with clarity rather than emotion. It became clear that self-reliance was more than a necessity, it was a shield. I didn't have to depend on the people who had hurt me to define my worth or my future. I could define it myself. I also learned the power of boundaries. Loving someone doesn't mean allowing them to cross lines, to manipulate, or to exploit. I learned to say no without guilt, to distance myself from toxic behavior, and to prioritize my own emotional and financial safety. Boundaries aren't just walls, they are foundations. And for the first time, I built a life with solid foundations, ones that could withstand deception and betrayal. Interestingly, the exposure of truth had effects beyond my own healing. It rippled through the family in ways I hadn't expected. Some reflected on their actions, the lies they had told, the trust they had shattered. A few apologized, acknowledging the harm they had caused. Their apologies weren't instant fixes. They were small, fragile attempts to begin understanding the consequences of their choices. Others, however, couldn't face it. Some disappeared entirely, retreating from contact, unable or unwilling to confront their part in the betrayal. And I realized that was okay. Not everyone is ready for accountability. Not everyone can confront the damage they've caused. Their absence, while painful, became a lesson in acceptance. I can't force others to change. I can only change myself, control my actions, and protect my life moving forward. The experience taught me a profound truth. The power of truth is undeniable, even when it comes late. Exposing the betrayal didn't erase the past, but it shifted the future. It created clarity where there had been deception, boundaries where there had been manipulation, and self-respect where there had been compromise. The act of standing firm, of facing betrayal with calm, evidence-based clarity, had ripple effects I hadn't anticipated, not just in others, but within myself. I began to rebuild my life intentionally. Every decision, every relationship, every step forward was made with awareness. I cultivated connections that were genuine, transparent, and reciprocal. I invested in friendships and partnerships where trust wasn't just assumed, but earned. I nurtured a sense of self that no longer relied on validation from those who had once betrayed me. There were challenges along the way. Old habits, old memories, moments of doubt, they resurfaced. But each time I reminded myself of the lessons I had learned, the importance of observation, the strength in patience, the necessity of boundaries, and the undeniable value of truth. These principles became my guide, my compass, my framework for navigating the complex emotional landscape left in the wake of betrayal. I also found a sense of empowerment I hadn't anticipated, knowing that I had the strength to uncover the truth, to confront it calmly and effectively, to reclaim my voice and my life. That knowledge became a source of inner confidence. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclamation, reclaiming my dignity, my security, and my sense of self-worth. Over time, the initial sting of betrayal faded into a quieter, reflective pain. It was still there, of course. Scars don't disappear completely, but they became reminders of resilience rather than sources of constant hurt. They reminded me that I had survived something profound, something that could have broken me entirely, but instead shaped me into someone stronger, wiser, and more cautious about where trust is placed. And I realized something else. Healing isn't linear. Some days, the memory of betrayal would hit harder than others. Some interactions, some reminders would cause a momentary pang of anger or sadness. But those moments became opportunities to reaffirm my boundaries, to practice self-compassion, and to remember the lessons I had fought to learn. I also discovered the quiet joy of living on my own terms. No longer constrained by manipulation, no longer measured by the approval or deceit of others, I was free to pursue goals, dreams, and connections that aligned with my values. I made choices guided by clarity, not by fear or obligation. And that freedom, even with its accompanying loneliness at times, was liberating. The family dynamic changed irreversibly. Some attempted reconciliation, some withdrew completely. And I accepted both outcomes. Rebuilding doesn't require everyone to return. It requires self-reconstruction, emotional integrity, and the courage to live authentically. I had those tools now, forged in the fire of betrayal and tempered by careful reflection. In the end, the experience taught me that betrayal is devastating, but it doesn't have to define you. It doesn't have to dictate your future. What defines you is how you respond, with patience, with strategy, with self-respect, and with truth as your guide. I chose to respond in a way that preserved my integrity, empowered me, and allowed me to reclaim my life fully. Looking back, I see that every moment, the subtle hints, the inconsistencies, the lies, the confrontation, and the exposure, was part of a larger lesson. A lesson about human nature, about trust, about self-reliance, and about the undeniable power of truth. And while the betrayal left scars, it also left wisdom, a wisdom that would guide me in every decision moving forward. I realized, too, that the people you love the most aren't always the ones who will protect you. And that's okay. It doesn't mean you stop loving, but it means you learn to love intelligently. You learn to protect yourself, to trust wisely, and to recognize the signs of betrayal before they take root. As I rebuilt my life, I carried both the pain and the strength of those experiences with me. The wounds were real, but so was the resilience. The betrayal had taken something, yes, but it had also given me clarity, independence, and the knowledge that I could survive even the deepest cuts and emerge whole. And perhaps the most important lesson of all, truth, even when it comes late, has power. It has the ability to illuminate deception, to restore integrity, and to transform pain into strength. Exposing the betrayal didn't erase the past, but it ensured that the future would be guided by honesty, respect, and self-empowerment. I learned that life doesn't always give closure neatly. Some relationships mend, some fade, some remain complicated. But by prioritizing truth, integrity, and self-respect, I could create a life worth living, unshackled from manipulation, deceit, and false loyalty. I moved forward with intention, guided by lessons hard-earned. I embraced resilience, vigilance, and the power of observation. I cherished the people who truly valued me and released those who didn't. And I carried the knowledge that while betrayal can wound, it can also teach if you're willing to listen. Picking up the pieces wasn't easy. It wasn't immediate. But each piece I placed was done with purpose. Each step forward was a reaffirmation of my strength. And in that deliberate rebuilding, I discovered something profound. Even after betrayal, even after loss, even after trust is broken, life can be rebuilt, stronger, wiser, and more self-aware than ever before. If there's one thing I want you to take away from my story, it's this: trust wisely, but always trust yourself first. Life has a way of surprising us, sometimes in ways we least expect, and often through the people we think will never hurt us. Family, friends, colleagues, anyone who holds a place of closeness can disappoint, deceive, or betray. And when it happens, it shakes the very foundation of your world. But here's the truth I learned through the fire. Betrayal doesn't define you. How you respond does. It's not the act of deceit that shapes your life. It's the way you rise, the way you process, the way you reclaim control that tells your story. You have the power to choose calm over chaos, strategy over impulsivity, and clarity over confusion. And that power is more valuable than anything taken from you by those who betray. Revenge, contrary to what many might think, isn't about anger. It's not about shouting, lashing out, or hurting others just because they've hurt you. Anger is temporary. Anger clouds judgment. True revenge, if you want to call it that, is about clarity, justice, and protecting yourself. It's about taking the time to observe, document, and act in ways that expose deception without losing your dignity. It's about reclaiming your voice, your confidence, and your life. I also learned that exposure doesn't have to be cruel. It doesn't need to humiliate or embarrass anyone. The most powerful moments are calm, calculated, and undeniable. Let truth speak for itself. When facts are presented clearly, when actions are documented, when lies are revealed through evidence rather than drama, it has a weight that no outburst can match. It leaves no room for denial. It leaves no place to hide. And the satisfaction comes not from hurting, but from restoring balance. Trust is precious. It's fragile, easily broken, and incredibly difficult to rebuild. And yet, trusting yourself, your instincts, your observations, your judgment is something no one can take away. In my journey, I learned to listen to that quiet voice inside, the one that warns you when something feels off, the one you're tempted to ignore because you hope for the best. That voice is your guide. Trust it. Follow it. Because when others fail you, it is your inner compass that keeps you safe and grounded. I also realized that family is not always blood. Sometimes, the people who share your DNA aren't the ones who stand by you when the world turns against you. True family is made up of those who show loyalty, who act with integrity, and who support you even when circumstances are difficult. And sometimes, the harshest betrayals teach the most valuable lessons. They show you who truly belongs in your life and who doesn't. It's easy to become bitter after betrayal. I won't lie, there were moments when anger surged, when the pain felt too heavy to bear, when the weight of deception threatened to crush me. But bitterness is like a shadow that follows you, limiting your vision and draining your energy. Choosing clarity, patience, and strategic action instead transformed that pain into power. I reclaimed my agency. I reclaimed my life. And in doing so, I discovered resilience I didn't know I had. There's a lesson in timing too. Often, we want justice or revenge immediately, driven by emotion and hurt. But the truth is, patience is more effective than impulse. Waiting, observing, planning, these are not signs of weakness. They are signs of wisdom. When you act with preparation and clarity, the consequences of betrayal become undeniable, and the impact lasts far longer than any momentary outburst could ever achieve. Another lesson is about boundaries. Betrayal teaches you where your limits are. It teaches you to protect your energy, your emotions, and your values. Setting boundaries doesn't make you cold or distant. It makes you strong. It shows that you respect yourself enough not to be manipulated or exploited. And once you establish those boundaries, you create a foundation for healthier relationships, whether with family, friends, or colleagues. Through it all, I learned the importance of reflection. Every action, every choice, every interaction offered insight. Why did I trust so blindly? Why did I ignore the subtle signs? What could I do differently moving forward? Reflection allows you to learn, grow, and make smarter decisions, transforming betrayal into education rather than just pain. I also learned to embrace resilience. Life will challenge you. People will disappoint you. But the human spirit has an incredible capacity to recover, adapt, and thrive. Betrayal is a wound, yes, but it is not a sentence. Healing takes time, effort, and self-compassion, but it is possible. And when you rebuild, you emerge stronger, wiser, and more aware of the people and choices that truly matter. Finally, I learned the enduring power of truth. Lies may last a while, manipulations may succeed temporarily, but the truth always finds a way to surface. Exposing it, standing firmly with evidence and clarity, can transform not only your own life but the dynamics around you. Truth restores integrity, ensures accountability, and liberates you from the weight of deceit. If you are ever in a situation where trust is broken, remember this: you are stronger than you think. You have the capacity to observe, to protect, to act calmly, and to reclaim what is yours. The choices of others do not define your worth or your future, your response does. And even when betrayal cuts deeply, when the people you love fail you, there is always a way forward. Trust yourself, protect yourself, seek clarity, not vengeance. Allow truth to do its work. And remember that family, real family, is built on loyalty, integrity, and support, not just shared history or blood. Sometimes the harshest betrayals become the most powerful lessons, guiding you toward relationships, decisions, and a life that aligns with your values. In the end, the story isn't just about betrayal. It's about resilience. It's about self-reliance. It's about reclaiming your voice, your boundaries, and your life. It's about realizing that the world will challenge you, that people will fail you, and that pain is inevitable, but that your strength, your clarity, and your commitment to truth can carry you through. And so, if there is one final takeaway I want you to remember, life will surprise you, and people will sometimes disappoint you. But you are capable of facing betrayal with calm, of exposing lies with precision, and of rebuilding a life that is stronger than it was before. Trust wisely, but always trust yourself first. Protect your heart, your mind, and your future. And never forget, truth has power and resilience is born from challenges. No matter how deep the betrayal, you can emerge whole, empowered, and ready to live life on your own terms. Because at the end of the day, the greatest lesson betrayal can teach is not about others. It's about discovering just how strong, capable, and resilient you really are.